I came to Alaska to seek out the necessary training to learn to dive under the ice. It's the first step in a multi-year plan to scuba dive in some of the world's coldest places. But what I discovered was so much more. Tomorrow I'm going scuba diving under the ice here in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little nervous about the whole thing, but I think a little bit of nervousness is a healthy thing to have. And I'm definitely pushing my comfort zone on this dive, but you know, if you never do push your comfort zone, you never grow, you never learn anything new, you're never experiencing anything different. So I'm pushing it tomorrow for sure. But I've hooked up with a really experienced group here with Dive Alaska, so I know I'm in good solid hands. But before I head under the water with those guys, I want to go grab a helicopter, fly up over a glacier, and check out the ice from above, and hike, find an ice cave on the surface. But first, before I do any of that, I gotta get down this hill. To get a feel for the icy tundra, I hooked up with Alaska Helicopter Tours, and we headed out to the Knik Glacier, only about 50 miles east of Anchorage. The ice field here is over 5 miles wide and roughly 25 miles long, and it's breathtaking. But I want to get up close, so we head for frozen Lake George in the hopes of finding an ice cave. I'm gonna go check out this ice cave. This is amazing. So we set down on Lake George. There's about 8 inches of ice, which is more than enough to support the weight of the helicopter. But the glacier behind me, the Knik Glacier, this is a section of it that's probably at least about 10,000 years old. And the ice behind me is probably dated about 500 or 600 years, I think. So, but it's absolutely gorgeous. This blue is amazing. The air in it gets kind of compressed, and I think it just gives it that blue hue. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up, but it's incredible. It's absolutely freezing out here. It's 7 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's a good wind that's making it even colder. I'm gonna keep moving and check out another cave. I'm not sure if this is similar or not to the lake I'm going to be diving in, but man, if it's anything half as beautiful as this, it's going to be an incredible day. Keep over to the right side, avoid that overhang. It doesn't look too stable. Oh,
blue hue is in fact due to the smaller and fewer air bubbles in the ice. When light hits the ice, it bounces back after hitting air bubbles. But when the ice is dense enough and the air bubbles have been squeezed out, only the blue light is reflected back. This dense, clear ice is something we'll be looking for when cutting a hole in the lake ice to dive tomorrow.
All right, the helo's 45 seconds out, so we gotta get going.
What I should do now is go get some rest for an early start on the day tomorrow. But being this far north, I just had to see if I could find the Northern Lights.
Well, while I'm waiting for other divers, let's talk about the dive plan for the day. But really, first and foremost above everything else is staying warm. The water temperature is freezing, the air temperature is freezing, everything is freezing. So staying warm is going to be a real challenge, but you also don't want to stay too warm out there. So on the surface, I'm going to be doing a lot of physical activity as well. So I've got a bunch of layers with me, and depending on what I'm doing, I'm going to just layer up in different configurations so that I'm always just a little chilly, because I don't want to sweat. If I'm out there shoveling or doing something like that, I don't want to work up a sweat, because if I work up that sweat, my undergarments get wet, and when they get wet, they start to freeze, and when they freeze, well, I get cold, and recovering from that cold is going to be very challenging. Same thing in the water. I want to layer up underneath my dry suit to stay warm, but I'm going to be careful not to overly exert myself under the ice so that I don't start sweating and get cold as a result of that. So layering up, staying warm, that's going to be the main challenge for the day. But we're going to kick the day off here by finding a spot out on the ice. I'm going to let the guys here from Dive Alaska choose that spot and do what they do best out here. I'm just going to help along. But we're going to shovel out a big rectangular area. They're going to take a big auger and drill a hole to start, and then we're going to saw out a triangle in the ice for us to descend down into. Once we've kind of got the little triangle carved out, those little pieces, we're going to pull those out and set them aside on a tarp. Straight up. And don't let it stop. You guys got it? Yep.
Hang on. Are we? All right, I got the weight. Just lift it up on. Yeah. All right. Now stand it up.
And we're going to save those for later, because we want to reuse those same pieces to fill the hole up again. It gives the ice something to kind of grab onto when it has those big chunks of ice back in the hole, so that the hole can kind of seal itself, so that well, it's not a hazard for anybody else walking around out there.
Anybody not drag a block out yet? I haven't. We don't want to grab the block and do it 3 times, so we let down 1, 2, 3. Oh.
So once we've got that hole in place, we're also going to put some pins in the ice, and those are going to be used for the different tethers that we got. So every diver is going to be tethered out there, and every person who's tending a diver on the surface is also going to be tethered. So anybody standing near and around the hole is going to have a line attached to them. That's just in case if they fall in, they're not going very far. So we're going to have 2 pins in, one for a line for the tender and one for a line for the diver, and we're probably going to have 2 to 3 divers in the water at any one given time. So we're going to position those pins around at different spots on the triangle. And once we've got the whole dive site set up, it's time to get in the water. And there are several reasons we've got a triangle shape. So one of the main reasons is it's a very stable form. It's going to erode a little bit on the sides as we're kind of working throughout the day, but it's going to overall keep its shape. It also gives us some nice little corners to kind of back up into and exit, so that we can kind of support ourselves as divers, and then with some help and assistance get pulled back out of the hole. But it's kind of a nice stable area. Gives the tank a little corner for us to rest it in, and our arms some size to kind of hold on to. So it has some functionality to it as well. So the triangle is a great shape to kind of start with here.
The ice at the lake today is 31 inches or 79 centimeters thick. There's a top layer of snow, but the majority of the ice is clear and dense and looks very similar to the glacial ice I explored yesterday. As I sort out my line and extend the camera, I notice my depth gauge shows I'm 2 feet below the surface, but in reality, I'm just inches under the ice. As I descend, my surface tender feeds out line to allow me to move forward and go deeper. In this overhead environment, the line is the only way I have to finding my way back to the tiny hole we made in the ice. Without it, I could easily become lost and trapped under the ice. While diving, I keep in constant two-way communication with my surface tender by communicating with a series of pulls on the line. Pulling once lets him know I'm okay. 2 pulls indicates I need more line, and 3 pulls lets him know to take line in. 4 indicates an emergency, which we plan to simulate towards the end of the dive, so we'll get to that in a minute. There's not much to see on the lake floor, so I ask my tender to take in line and head back up just under the ice. I pause a moment and just listen to the sound of my bubbles on the ice and the trapped air escaping through the hole we made. Approaching the end of my dive, it's time to simulate an emergency. And I pull 4 times on the line. My tender recognizes the signal and starts to reel me in.
So like I said in the beginning, I was a little hesitant about how this was going to go. I had no idea. I had no point of reference to base this off of, but it was an absolute amazing experience. The guys here, first rate for sure. Safety above everything, but the fun factor was absolutely off the charts. It was incredible. If you guys are ever bored at home, come to Alaska, get in under the ice, because there is nothing else like it. It's definitely worth pushing your comfort zone a little bit and seeing what you can do. All right, guys, we'll see you next time underwater, but make sure to check out this video next.